Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. This is CBC Windsor News. Thanks for watching. Tonight, hundreds seeking asylum in our city. Plus, we'll hear a desperate plea for the return of a beloved daughter. Police have been looking for this 19-year-old girl for more than a month. The federal-provincial health deal could be closer to reality. We will bring you the latest. And a new reality competition show is premiering on CBC tonight, and it features LaSalle's very own Luke Wilson. We'll speak with him later in the program. We begin with our top story. More than 500 people are now in Windsor seeking asylum. Canada's Immigration Department tells CBC News they've entered from the United States after leaving their home country. The CBC's TJ Deer reports.
Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada says 518 asylum claimants are currently staying in hotels in our region. Mobile health units from the Windsor-Essex Community Health Centre and the Ontario Health Team were at one of the hotels providing medical assistance to the newly arrived refugees. One of them arrived a month ago from Afghanistan.
Canada, one of my favorite country, and also they provide very good service or the facilities for the refugees especially. And it's one of the freedom country, and I would just like to believe in a freedom country.
CBC News reached out to the local health unit, area MPs, as well as local agencies that assist newcomers. None agreed to speak, forwarding our request to the federal government's immigration department. Another refugee staying in Windsor told Radio-Canada that he entered Canada through the controversial Roxham Road crossing in Quebec. Quebec's immigration minister told reporters on Tuesday that 380 people entered Canada through Roxham Road over the weekend. She said Ontario was a destination for some of the arrivals and that only 8 remained in Quebec. In addition to the asylum seekers staying in Windsor hotels, Matthew House is housing an additional 78 refugees, according to their executive director, and that another 38 were being housed through their community partners. He said the world has become less safe during the COVID-19 pandemic, adding that the world is distracted and corrupt governments are taking advantage of the situation. Fort Erie, near Niagara Falls, is another municipality where refugees are being housed in hotels and town-affiliated facilities. Their mayor says that many of their housed refugees arrived through Buffalo.
There's been a lot of coordination over the years between the individuals who are assisting refugees in Canada, in Fort Erie, and in the United States in Buffalo. And those roots go back, as I said, to at least 1980. And because it's a well-known route for refugees into Canada, there's a large number of them that come here.
The Safe Third Country Agreement with the U.S. has allowed both countries to process asylum claims since 2004. Ottawa says they're looking to modernize that agreement. As for asylum seekers, they're assessed on an individual basis. If that's granted, they're able to apply to become a permanent resident. TJ Deer, CBC News, Windsor.
We turn now to a public plea from the mother of a missing daughter. 19-year-old Gabrielle Venal hasn't been seen since early last month. The CBC's Dale Molnar went to police headquarters today to learn more about this and joins me now live in studio. Dale, what did you hear from her mother?
Well, Kat, police say that they held this news conference today specifically because Andrea North wanted to make an emotional plea to the public about her daughter. She says she wants to see her daughter return and that this is every parent's worst nightmare. Police describe her daughter, Gabrielle Venal, as a 5'7" white woman with slim build and reddish-brown shoulder-length hair, but she's also been known to change her appearance. Police say she is transient and was reported missing on January the 5th. That's because she did not check in with outreach workers, which she usually does. So police believe she is out of the city. They aren't aware of her ever disappearing before.
I think about Gabrielle every minute of the day, and I hope and pray more than anything that my daughter will be returned to us safely. Please, I'm asking you from the bottom of my heart, if you know anything concerning my daughter or her whereabouts, please contact the Windsor Police. Gabby is the light of my life.
That's so hard to hear, Dale. Police say that Gabrielle is likely out of town. So any ideas of where she might be?
Well, investigators say she could be in a bigger city, but they really do have no leads on specifically where she may be. Could be anywhere in the province, actually. Other police organizations throughout the province have been contacted to be on the lookout. Now, police say Vinal may have been seen in the area here more recently, though, than January 5th.
We found out the last time she was seen was actually by a police officer walking northbound down Glengarry from Wyandotte on the early hours of January the 6th. There was another possible sighting between the 9th and the 15th of January, but we can't confirm that. There was no video in the area. So that was from another outreach worker that believed they know her. So we believe that she was seen around January 9th to the 15th.
Now, police say they do not suspect foul play yet. They have set up a tip line for people with information to call. It's 519-255-6700. That's the police station at extension 4305. So that's the local police phone number at 519-255-6700, extension 4305. So if you have any information on her whereabouts, the police would like to know about it. Kat?
Thanks for this, Dale. To national news now. The federal government plans to set up an independent commission to review what might be wrongful convictions. It introduced the David and Joyce Milgard law in Parliament today. David Milgard spent decades in prison for a crime he did not commit. Justice Minister David Lametti says he hopes the commission will deal with cases of people who don't have the resources to launch a legal fight.
As minister, I've seen the process up close. When I look at the files that come to me, I see a clear pattern. The applicants are overwhelmingly white men, and our prison populations do not look like that. This tells me that the system is not as accessible to women or to Indigenous peoples or Black or racialized people who are disproportionately represented in our criminal justice system. We have to change that.
Lametti was joined on stage by David Milgard's sister, Susan. And there are signs a federal-provincial health deal could be closer to being finalized. This after Premier Ford asked the Prime Minister to include a formal review of the healthcare plan in the province's next bilateral agreement. Lorenda Redekop has the details.
The letters have been flying back and forth over the last 2 days. Yesterday, the Premier wrote to the Prime Minister, underlining that Ontario is looking to ensure sustainability and certainty in federal healthcare funding. It requests an amendment to include 2 different reviews on the money after a few years. Here's what the health critic for the provincial Liberals took from the Premier's ask.
It's evident that Doug Ford doesn't like the outcome that he got. And so, this letter says he'd like to propose a reevaluation at the 5-year mark. He doesn't like the outcome, so he's trying to change the process.
Also yesterday, a letter from the federal government to Ontario's health minister, agreeing with those 2 review requests and looking for more details, including action plans on how the money will be spent. The federal government also underlines principles on healthcare in a separate document, mentioning shared responsibility to uphold the Canada Health Act and protecting public health care.
They're about to send billions of dollars to Ontario. It's not hard to attach a caveat that you will respect the Canada Health Act. Care will be based on needs and delivered by not-for-profit, not big corporations who stand to make hundreds of millions and billions of dollars on the back of sick people.
This is at a time when the province is adding more surgeries in private clinics, though insisting Ontarians won't be stuck having to pay out of their own pocket. Today, a letter to the Prime Minister from all the premiers confirms they're accepting the federal funding, but they say they're disappointed and that it will clearly not address structural healthcare funding needs. One challenge, they say, addressing what they call the fiscal cliff when the deal expires. One health policy expert hopes a final deal will include some clear benchmarks, as she's seen from some other parts of the world.
We will set a 4-week guarantee to see a specialist or an 8-week guarantee for elective surgery.
As for when a deal could be reached, it's expected to come before the end of next month, when Ontario's budget is released. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
A nationwide shortage of an abortion pill is expected next week, the second shortage in the last few months. The only company that manufactures the drug for use in Canada says supply chain issues are to blame, and those who provide the pills are stockpiling. Marina von Stackelberg reports.
So this is mifegamizole.
Also known as the abortion pill, doctors like Renee Hall can prescribe it up to 10 weeks into pregnancy. Further along, a surgical abortion is required.
There is that time limit that you have to take into consideration.
When the last shortage happened in December, Dr. Hall says some patients had to have a surgical abortion instead.
That was really unfortunate circumstance for those patients. They really wanted to get this done by medication. They did not want to end up in surgery.
This latest abortion pill shortage is expected to last 2 weeks. Line Pharma, the company that makes it, blames a short supply of the active ingredient used in the drug. That has led to manufacturing and delivery delays. Clinics across the country have stockpiled what doses they have.
We know that some pharmacies have a limited stock of mifegamizole available, but not a really high stock. So we're scared that some people might not have access to the products.
During the last shortage, some pharmacies in rural and remote areas ran out.
It expires pretty quickly, so most pharmacies keep like 1 or 2 boxes.
The abortion pill has greatly opened up access since it became available in 2017. Instead of having to travel to a clinic or hospital for a surgery, a family doctor can prescribe it, and it can be taken at home.
The scope of access is just so significantly diminished when you take medication abortion out of the picture.
Line Pharma supplies Canada with between 50 and 80,000 doses of the abortion pill every year. The company says the hormone used in the pill is still a niche product. Not many places manufacture it, making it difficult to source. Marina von Stackelberg, CBC News, Ottawa.
The U.S. president had an update today on the objects that have been shot out of the sky this month. The first was a suspected Chinese surveillance balloon spotted over U.S. and Canadian land. Since then, the U.S. and Canada have acted together to shoot down 3 more objects. Today, Joe Biden talked about where things stand.
We don't yet know exactly what these 3 objects were, but nothing right now suggests they were related to China's spy balloon program or that they were surveillance vehicles from any other country. The intelligence community's current assessment is that these 3 objects were most likely balloons tied to private companies, recreation or research institutions studying weather or conducting other scientific research.
Showtime! Canada's Ultimate Challenge is a brand new reality TV show that transforms the country into a giant obstacle course. 6 teams led by superstar coaches compete in challenges that test them mentally and physically. And one of those coaches is NFL Super Bowl champion LaSalle's Luke Wilson, and he joins us from Toronto. Luke, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me on.
So talk me through what this show is all about.
Well, it's a little complex, but basically you kind of nailed it. We go across the country and we kind of traverse some landscapes, if you will. We turn into a big obstacle course. Again, almost kind of Amazing Race meets The Voice, where you've got 6 coaches, all ex-Canadian athletes, and we are given 4 players that are Canadians from all different walks of life, and we show up to different locations and they have these really cool challenges for us, and we got to try and win.
And you're usually a competitor, so what was it like this time stepping in as a coach?
It was different, you know. It was definitely, it took me a few challenges to kind of really find my niche. I've never really coached for this extended period or at this age level in my life, so definitely first episode, even kind of into the second one, I felt like I was still trying to find my own identity as a coach, but it was fun. Like by the end of, you know, our team's run, it was just one of those things where I felt like I had formed some relationships with my players. They kind of understood me, I understood them. So there was a pretty steep learning curve, but it was definitely very enjoyable and a lot of fun.
So might you do some more coaching down the road then after this?
Yeah, definitely keep the door open. I don't know. Again, one of the hard parts was I think it would be easier for me to coach football. You know, some of the events I just had to, I could kind of mentally prep my team, but as far as the physical event itself, I haven't really traversed too many suspension bridges or done anything kind of that epic. So it was a little different, but I definitely think coaching might be in the future down the road.
And this is a country-wide competition. So where did some of the challenges take you across the country?
Yeah, we started in Squamish, British Columbia, and then from there we kind of went all over the place. My favorite spot was actually the 3rd stop, which was the Yukon. So it was, growing up in LaSalle, you're always learning in the elementary school system about different places in Canada, and I've never been to the Yukon, never really had a reason to go there. So it was kind of neat because it was the summertime when we filmed, and I remember coming back from one of the days, challenge days, and it was probably 10 p.m. and at that time, it pretty much felt like it was 3 p.m. outside. So I got on my bike, did a little bike ride. It was probably midnight, and it still, again, was extremely light out. It was pretty unique. I really enjoyed visiting the Yukon. I thought it was a pretty special place.
Oh, that's awesome. Anything in Windsor, Essex?
Nothing this round, but hopefully if there's a season 2, they make the trek down there, maybe hit Point Pelia, Fort Malden, who knows, some of the historic spots in the Windsor area.
Awesome. We'll be keeping an eye out for that. Thank you so much for that, Luke.
Thank you.
Luke Wilson is an NFL Super Bowl champion from LaSalle, and he's also one of 6 star coaches on a new CBC show called Canada's Ultimate Challenge that premieres tonight at 8 p.m. on CBC and CBC Gem. Live look outside there. We are in the midst of a freezing rain warning, and you can see it coming down there. Colette Kennedy will let us know what to expect right after the break. Stay with us. Colette Kennedy is here now for a look at weather. Colette, freezing rain expected throughout the evening tonight.
Yeah, this winter is really asking a lot of us because it's asking us to make all these adjustments from mild temperatures to cold temperatures, a wintry mix coming in. You know, it's hard to keep it all together here. So let's help take you through what we can expect over the next 24 hours, but really it's the next 12. So we can see that temperature, Chatham-Kent at the freezing mark, but Windsor slipping just below, so at -1. And then the radar, and by the way, it doesn't always pick up some of the lighter stuff, like some of the mist and activity that we're seeing. But yes, indeed, getting that profile where it's a bit of light mixed precipitation when you see the pink. Ice pellets, keep in mind, that's when it freezes before it reaches the ground, and then the freezing rain is when it freezes on contact, and that's even worse on roadways or certainly untreated surfaces. So it's patchy at the moment, but this is going to be filling in, and as it does, as we get into the evening hours, it becomes more of a dangerous situation. But along much of the north shore of Lake Erie, you'll get into a situation of rainfall to the east of us, but we are into that freezing rain warning. It extends into eastern Ontario, and away a little further north, it's more of a snowfall event, 5 to 10 centimeters, and that's where the winter weather travel advisories are. But see how we're so close to that line because of those temperatures right about freezing. And it's not just what the temperatures are doing at the surface, it's aloft as well that matters when we're talking about this mixed precipitation. But even through to before midnight, we're still dealing with these kind of roadways and issues. And then as we get past midnight, there'll be some flurry activity or very, very light snowfall, just a dusting is the most I would expect to a centimeter, but really then that passes through so that by the time we get to tomorrow morning, we're just not dealing with this anymore. It really moves through in the overnight hours, all right? So you can see what I mean, a trace to a dusting in our region where it's more significant for Georgian Bay. That ice accretion line, that could be significant. It will be a cold start though tomorrow morning. Adjust for that, and a cool day on Friday before we rebound.
Thanks so much for that, Colette.
You're welcome.
When we come back, a look at some just released footage of the Titanic. Stay with us. Canada's housing market is seeing a significant cool-off. New numbers show home sales fell last month by 37% compared to January 2022. As well, the national average home price also fell 18%. But as Nisha Patel reports, even with that cooling off, first-time home buyers face a new hurdle to get into the market.
This was a very popular size with investors.
Real estate broker Varun Mathur is going through condo listings.
And we were able to close it at $564,000.
More than a third of his clients are eyeing properties for a profit.
Last few years, especially with the interest rates being very low, there was a lot of investor activity.
Recent numbers show investors own a big share of the condo market, from 36% in BC to nearly 42% in Ontario.
Investors are more qualified. They are able to make the purchase because they're financially more secure. A lot of first-time buyers lose out because of that.
Still, experts say Canada isn't building enough rental housing, and investors are helping to fill that gap.
Demand for rentals have grown over time, and that demand has been essentially served by condo investors.
But as investors scoop up property, there's less stock for potential home buyers. The trend is raising questions about attitudes towards housing.
Many everyday homeowners start to think, housing isn't just a place to call home, it is a good way to get rich.
And some say we need a better balance.
A comprehensive plan to restore housing affordability has to be organized around the principle that we need to treat housing for homes first, investment second.
With deep-pocketed investors driving up competition, young Canadians are feeling left behind.
It's hard for a person like me to even break in the market because the ones with the money are just taking over and they're buying out all these condos.
It's definitely really, really hard and there's a lot of competition.
I just don't know if that's going to happen for me yet. So, yeah, I'm going to stay renting for a bit.
So for now, home ownership still feels out of reach. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
A model signed to a Toronto agency is redefining beauty standards. After struggling to love her own body, she is now helping others to love theirs. Meg Roberts has her story.
One thing about 29-year-old Allison Lang, she has a lot of goals. Practicing here at the Toronto Pan Am Sports Centre, she's a day closer to achieving some.
I really want to become a Paralympian. It's at the top of my list.
Born missing her fibula, it prompted doctors to amputate the undeveloped part of her left leg. She was in her mid-teens when she was introduced to sit-down volleyball and competes now for Team Canada.
It's a dream of mine. When I was really little, I didn't even know the Paralympics existed, which is sad because I've been disabled my whole life.
The lack of representation she saw as a child propelled her to become it. In fact, so visible you can see her from the corner of Lakeshore Boulevard and Bathurst Street as one of the new faces of the Joe Fresh activewear line.
It's a little bit surreal for me because I don't know, like I said, I never used to see people like me in advertisement.
But in order to understand the proud disabled woman Lang is today, you have to go back to the beginning of her story.
I was severely bullied when I was younger, both emotionally and physically. It got to be too extreme for me, to the point where I was going home and I told my parents, like, I didn't want to be here anymore, I didn't want to be alive anymore. And yeah, it's really hard, like being a young girl with something so visibly different that you can't hide or, change about yourself.
And after years of trying to do just that, she realized she was better off being her true self, which has lended itself to a career she couldn't have pictured doing years ago.
To be honest, I never set out to be a model.
But now she shop for clothing stores Ardennes and Noise, Via Rail, and most recently, Joe Fresh.
When you look at that picture, what do you think?
When I first saw it, I'm not gonna lie, I cried. I bawled my eyes out, and I think that image is so powerful. A lot of people don't think that disabled people can live this fulfilling lifestyle. And I truly hope that anybody that's struggling, disabled or not, if they see that image, they'll be like, if she can love her body, accept her body, show her body, so can I.
Meg Roberts, CBC News, Toronto.
Here's something you've never seen before. The very first film taken of the wreck of the Titanic. It was shot nearly 40 years ago in 1986, the first time human eyes had seen the doomed Dreamliner on the bottom of the Atlantic. 11 dives took place to capture these pictures of the ship, and until now, the footage had been kept under lock and key, but it's being released now to celebrate the 25th anniversary of James Cameron's blockbuster epic. That is it for CBC Windsor News. For news anytime, go to cbc.ca/Windsor, and you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as well. And don't forget, the new CBC show Canada's Ultimate Challenge premieres tonight, featuring LaSalle's Luke Wilson. That's at 8 p.m. on CBC and CBC Gem. Have a great night.